These young girls are my responsibility.
Did something happen?
A potential scandal is something to be afraid of.
I can't talk to you.
We're talking about a young woman's nightmare.
I'm innocent of what she's accusing me of. You can make this all go away.
Obviously, from the trailer, we know this thriller feel to it. There's this story arc. But what I really was surprised and taken aback by was it's almost like a coming of age story for you, in the sense that you realize through these kind of events that go on, maybe you've been neglecting what you should be doing as a coach. No, that must have been something that really kind of attracted you to this particular script. No, when it came across your desk.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you automatically are taken with JC and, her strength and all of that. But, she is flawed. And I think that when some of these occurrences happen, she's blindsided. And, that sometimes happen. You're so busy in life, you have so much on your plate. And then you realize, oh my goodness, like, yes, I am human and I just effed up in a major way. What can I do to fix this? I need to fix that. And I think what makes JC so redeemable is how she will stop at nothing to right her wrongs.
Because TV is so kind of rapidly shoot this episode, the next episode. How much did you actually know of what was going to kind of play out as you went into the first few episodes?
Yeah, the great thing is we got most of the episodes up front. Like, we knew it's a 12 episode season. We got 11 episodes, and there were some changes along the way, but for the most part, we knew kind of like what was going to happen. And so it was great in terms of like thinking about where your character is and in the arc of the story and whatnot. But even then, I think for me personally as an actor, I was thinking, okay, great, I know what's going to happen. I'll prepare for that. But I, once it actually came to shooting some of the, especially the heavier scenes, or scenes where I have to confront, Rose's character, it was a lot harder, even though I knew months in advance that it was coming. Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I guess it kind of played against you in a way that so much because what's kind of there. It's harder to kind of hide what's really going on there. I don't want to give anything away about any of them, but kind of to hide who could be doing what. It must have been kind of more difficult knowing more than you really probably would have been better off knowing, no? Yeah, and it also helps that sort of seeing the character as a full person. Sometimes you get a role or you do a show or a movie or something where it feels like the character is an archetype or they're a bit of a trope, and you're like, okay, this person's the bad guy. But what's been so great about this is that it doesn't really feel like the show has any bad guys. You have a bunch of people that are sort of organically acting in ways that are not great and then sort of rub up against the other characters, and that sort of makes for the tension and the drama. So it was great to see the full life of this character, to get a better sense of who he was and all the sort of shades and dare I say the spectrum of this character. But yeah. How are you doing, guys? Nice to see you.
Good, Howard, how you doing? You gonna play something for us?
No, we've only got 5 minutes. Otherwise I would do, but no, we've only got next time. So first of all, congratulations on this series. I've watched the first few episodes. It's fantastic. It's got intricacies, but it's very different than any other kind of series that kind of involves those kind of intricacies of you don't know who's doing what, who says what. So I'm very keen to ask you why you decided to choose the basketball kind of universe to set this specific kind of whodunit series. Was it because it was kind of, I was talking to Ian and he said that the basketball world is very kind of family oriented. It's like the team is almost like a family, and that kind of lent itself to this kind of the story, no?
Yes, that's one of the reasons, but also I have been reading a lot of stories about scandal in the sports world, and particularly in the college athletic world. And I wanted to put it in a world where a woman had to deal with the same issues as men do. And so I chose women's basketball, but also because I'm a sports fan. I love all sports. I went to the Highland Games. I mean, I love sports. So I love that world. I love the type of people who participate in sports. And I think they're challenged in a different way than the rest of us who love watching it.
Uh-huh. And I mean, you said you love sports, but I know that the three of you love working together. This isn't the first time that you work together, so obviously it must be a joy to get together again. But it's a very different series than the previous things that you worked on, no? What were the kind of the stumbling blocks or the real challenges for this series compared to what you've worked on before?
I'll just say, challenge-wise, there's a positive to having all 12 scripts. And we had them all up front when we started shooting, although Pam withheld the 12th one for a while, which was fine. But she kept us all waiting and with bated breath. But we shot episodes 1, 2, 10, and 11 together. We shot out of order. And having a show that really the story carries out throughout all 12 episodes. And there's actually layered stories and layered time periods and so many different layers in terms of the characters, their journey, their arcs. All of that, I think, was the greatest challenge. I think that the fact that, made up stories is, they've always done amazing, beautiful work. They're really premium, and being on Spectrum allowed us also to just approach it from that way as well. Of how do we make the most cinematic? We had a lot of freedom. We had a lot of opportunity. So I wouldn't say that was a challenge, but that was very, very freeing in our ability to make this show.
And something that I was quite surprised, I wasn't expecting, is it really shines a light on kind of the responsibilities that kind of these coaches have on these girls' lives. And not just in terms of kind of the story, but just kind of, I don't want to give too much away, but Rose's character, she really kind of realizes that her responsibility is not really just a sport, but it's also kind of, she's almost like a mother figure for these. And she kind of really realizes that maybe she's been neglecting them. That was something that really kind of opened my eyes that I wasn't expecting on the show.
Yeah. That was, that's the whole thing that I didn't really consider about, sort of sports and collegiate sports was, what is the responsibility like sort of off the field, off the court? And also I didn't really know much about women's college basketball. And so I went and I met with an assistant coach over at Georgia Tech named Blanche Alverson, who was really helpful. And I wanted to know, like, what is the sort of the feel of, like, is it a family? Is it like, what's the relationship like? How do you interact with players? And I could see that, like, because on the outside, I was like, oh yeah, well, couldn't he tell that this might have been inappropriate or misinterpreted or something? But you see videos of all of these coaches interacting with these girls, and like, they score that game-winning shot, and they like run and they jump in their arms, and it's, you don't think about that. There's such a familial and intimate connection there that lines can get very blurry and things can be a little gray. And so in some ways, or at least for Eddie and the character of Eddie, it was like, I played him sort of as like as a tragic character, like that he's almost a victim in some sense, that like, how did he come to be in this place that, that from the outside, you might say like, well, yeah, you shouldn't do that. But at the time it's like, oh no, he was unsure. He was confused, so it's makes for great acting fun.
There's definitely a lot of love thrown around in the world of sports, and just like all competitive sports, you're very vulnerable, you're very raw, you're very open. So yeah, there's definitely, it can be mistaken, and I think that's an issue that my character struggled with, because she didn't see it. And she felt that she was very hard on herself because she felt that she should have seen it. But it can be, one and the same. Like, just because they hugged doesn't mean that, that was assault. There's just a lot of love thrown around in these situations.
Yeah, I mean, you said there that you were able to give pretty much the whole script to your actors. That in a way it helps, but at the same time, I guess it kind of makes it more difficult for the actors to keep kind of the audience on tenterhooks, to kind of, because they know what's going to happen. It kind of makes it more of a challenge for them as well at the same time, no? To kind of keep the audience guessing. No, did you think about it that way? Was that something that you were always second guessing?
Well, we talked to them about it, and then they were kind of thrilled to see the journey. They were happy to see where they were going. I don't think in particular the actors like being surprised to learn they're going to die in the same way they're going to die,
I also think, though, Howard, with that, like, yes, there is a challenge in that, as you have to, but this is where, the director's job really comes in. You have to keep them in on point for where they are in story. Even they may know what's coming up, you know, you have to sort of be there and have that great working relationship with your cast and make sure that they are in the moment that they're supposed to be in. But I think it's helpful and informative for them to understand their character's journey from the very beginning.
Because you play this coach who is she's caught up in this world of basketball. Did you base it on anyone specifically? I know that Ian, he spent time with a coach. Did you do something similar to kind of get into that mindset?
Yes, we had Cynthia Cooper, who is a current a basketball coach and for college basketball coach, and she's also a 5-time MVP of the WNBA. So she is she's a force, and she came and she consulted with us the whole time. So it was pretty intimidating to follow her lead, but she definitely she was a great mentor for me, for sure. Love her.
But I mean, the tips and pointers that she gave you, they must have been great for the kind of the scenes when you're doing the basketball.
Oh,
but at
definitely.
the same time,
She was there with me every step of the way.
definitely.
Yeah.
But the question I want to ask is, the pointers that she gave you, did you kind of implement those into the kind of outside that world when you were kind of dealing with all the other things as well? Did you use that kind of mentality to approach the other kind of problems that you had to deal with at the same time?
Yes and no. I feel like, everything is intersected, but at the same time, when we step on that court, it's game time. And then when it's one of my players coming to me with a problem, it's like, okay, I'm here. Let the world stops. Let's figure this out. So I think there's a difference there.
I've done some terrible things, Father.
Whatever they are, God will forgive you.
I don't know if I can forgive myself.